Ever since Phasmophobia took the genre by storm, there have been dozens of co-op horror games that have sought to capture the magic that Phasmophobia had over the market. As someone who has dabbled in this genre, I feel that there are few games that have held serious attention in the way Phasmophobia does to this day. That being said, I believe that Deathground, a new co-op horror game with dinosaurs as your enemy, has a chance of creating its own cult following the same way Phasmo did back in 2021. This is definitely not Cobb's. I play primarily survival crafting, but this is my channel to talk about all things horror and whatever else is on my mind. Today, I want to talk about the Kickstarter campaign for Deathground and my experience with the game. This video is going to be a review and an overview of my experience with the game, but I want to let you know first and foremost that I really liked Deathground, and I think you should give it a chance. Any critiques I have are more in the realm of feedback rather than knocking the game or the developers, and I want to remind everyone that this is still in early access. We do not have a final product yet. That being said, the final product could be shit. Who knows? But it is my belief that the assets and gameplay that we already have give the game a lot of potential. Another thing I think we should address before going any further is the development timeline. I want to get ahead of this one because I can already feel people reminding me about how long this game has been in development. The game was 150% funded 5 years ago, or close to 150%, and promised a variety of features that were not in the early access release. There is something to be said for this, as the game right now is relatively bare bones. That being said, after a quick scroll through the Steam reviews, I found a developer response here that I think sheds some light on why this is. Quick clarity on the 5 years and team. The project has been rebuilt from the ground up in the last 18 months due to losing publisher support, and we've pivoted to self-funding and self-publishing and are a small team again. While this was a major setback, we wanted to get this initial version out and then expand the game with the community as well as deliver on the full vision for the game by version 1.0. It's no excuse, just that we'll be expanding and improving the game anyway. I understand the product we have now massively under-delivered on what the Kickstarter promised, but what I see now is a small team of passionate developers doing what they can to fulfill their vision for a really fun game, and that I can get behind. Quick note from Future Cobbs that is editing this right now, I do want to say that I think the game has a lot to improve on, and that the product we received for their early access still is not really comparable to what I think people were expecting. That being said, if you do check their Kickstarter, they say the base game will be on PC and include 3 maps, 2 dinosaurs, 3 character classes, and peer-to-peer networked matches with 1 to 3 player co-op. So we didn't get the classes, but we did get everything else they said the base game will have. I don't know if they were expecting to release with more of the Kickstarter goals that they received, like the additional dinosaur, or any of the other skins, or just really anything else that they talked about having at launch. But I will say, this is what they said the base game would have, and we're pretty close to what they said the base game will have. But anyways, I'll shut up and let previous Cobbs, or previous not Cobbs, get back to it. If you're still here and interested in hearing about what this game can offer, then let's get into it. First, I want to go over a general explanation of the gameplay mechanics just so we're all on the same page. As of now, there are 3 missions available to you. You and up to 3 friends spawn into a map with a clear objective in mind. There are tasks that lead you deeper into the map that you must complete before accomplishing this final task. Then at the end, there's a general bomb rush to the exit van to escape the pursuing dinosaurs. You have a few different tools available to you to use while you are exploring the map. The meta currently is to use a motion tracker to avoid raptors or a tranq rifle to knock them out if they do find you, but I'm sure this will get balanced at some point. Now that we understand the general gameplay, let's talk what I liked. Full transparency, this is a bit of a short section, and I do really like the game, but it does have a lot to improve on, especially when you go over some of the promises made in the Kickstarter, which we will get into. But it's fun, and that feels like it's hard to do nowadays, so let's get into it. I think this game has a lot of potential, like I said, because it is just fun. That seems like a really simple statement, but I feel like a lot of co-op horror games go for crazy mechanics and cheap scares in favor of coming up with a gameplay loop that is actually fun. And I found the gameplay loop with Deathground quite enjoyable. Although there needs to be some work around the tools, I believe they have a lot of potential for differing approaches to the gameplay with their selection of tools. In the trailer, it showed the hacker tool opening doors. If the hacker tool, for example, was somehow developed to make some of the tech-oriented tasks easier or quicker, I could see it becoming an interesting strategy to approach the game. That's all to say, this is kind of something I like and also something I think they could improve on. But I think the idea with the tools is, again, really, really cool. I just am excited to see what they do to make the other tools a more viable option as well. I have more thoughts on the tools. We'll talk about them later in my negative feedback portion of the video. But another thing with Deathground is the atmosphere, and I actually saw this a lot when looking through the Steam reviews. It was mostly mentioned in positive reviews. You can tell there's thought put into the map design and the general ambiance. It definitely gives the vibe that these locations no longer belong to humans, but belong to the raptors that have overrun them. The dinosaurs also visually look really cool, and there seems to be some sort of underlying lore that they're trying to tell. I'm sure it hasn't been fully developed yet, so I don't think we're going to get the full story in this initial access, but there are little crumbs here and there, and it's kind of cool. Don't get me wrong, I think in the past few years we've had an overemphasis in some of these indie horror games on lore to try and create another FNAF, and I think doing that is a huge misstep. I don't think that's what's happening here with Deathground. There are little notes you can find throughout the maps. Colonel Wells is very consistently talking to you throughout all 3 maps, so maybe there's something going on with him. And there is one of the hints when you're loading in that says something to the effect of, "You can't remember," which feels like a huge lore flag of like there's something deeper going on than just you going into a facility to retrieve a raptor specimen. That's all to say, I think they have the makings of some really interesting lore here, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. Hello, it's Cobbs from the future again, or not Cobbs, whatever your preferred moniker is. You're gonna hear me a couple of more times just because I played a good bit of solo after recording this video, and I kind of wanted to add some more thoughts to reflect what I think is the solo experience. So like I said, I played a round of solo or 2, and I think they balanced the solo experience really well. That's one thing I worried about, especially with the first map, because it seems to be heavily dependent on working with a team. That being said, I had a lot of fun playing solo. It added some much needed intensity and stress that I think the game, once you get used to it, is sort of missing. And I will say I think you get used to this game and the mechanics pretty quickly. So I think playing solo, if you're up for it, is a really great experience. It's not too overwhelming, but like I said, still provides like a pretty decent amount of stress onto the player. Later on in the video, I'll talk about the enemies feeling more like a nuisance, and while I don't think that changes too much with the single player experience, like I said, it was overall more intense, and if that's your jam, I think you should give it a shot. Next, let's talk things I didn't like, and this is going to be a bit of a bigger section, but it all comes from a good place. Like, I do want this game to succeed. It is in early access, so again, take it with a huge grain of salt. But just from what we know about the Kickstarter and my experience with the game, here are my maybe not as nice thoughts. Firstly, I believe the Raptor and Compti designs are a huge opportunity that was missed at launch. And I don't mean designs visually, they look really cool. But there's no Raptor behaviors incorporated into the game other than the growling and the animations they do when they notice you. Having the raptors interact with each other, like hunt in a pack or do anything remotely raptor related would be really cool. I saw a Steam review mention the potential of a pounce attack as a variation, and I thought that was a really cool idea. Like, instead of biting the player, if they land a maybe more difficult to land pounce attack, it could be an instant kill. Just an idea. And next, I'd love to see the compies have some sort of function other than keeping you out of the vents. Again, I saw a Steam review where they suggested they steal an item from the player, which would be super cool. Another idea my friend that I was playing with had was the compy alerting the raptors to your location. I don't think they were doing that in-game, but I think that would be a really cool way to have the enemies in-game work together. And it would provide a degree of intensity that I do think the game is lacking. There are also allos in the last map or mission at the start, but we never saw them again. Full transparency, I only played through the last mission once, so it's possible that I personally just missed it. From what I've read, I'm pretty sure you see them at the beginning just as a cool like teaser, and then I don't think they show up again any later into the map. Again, they're probably going to incorporate other dinos later, but it would be cool to see some other dino other than the raptors and the compies, which I know I've said this 1,000 times. I'm sure they're working on it, but this is just my opinion right out the gate from playing the game and from reviewing the Kickstarter. Altogether, though, both enemies and dinosaurs, like, they're cool looking, but they just feel very stale. At first, they do give you a couple of good jump scares, especially when they yank you out of your hiding spot, but after a while, they honestly just become more of a nuisance than a threat. Secondly, I think an area that they could really improve on is the UI. For the love of God, please fix the pinging system, or allow different variations of pings, like a danger ping, a good to go ping, really anything other than what we currently have. The amount of times I tried to ping a raptor to alert my teammates that there was a raptor up ahead and just completely missed it was really, really obnoxious. And a couple of times missing it, yeah, whatever. But sometimes there were raptors like right in front of me and I was pinging and it would just ping everything but the raptor. I'm like, I don't know how I can point any more at the raptor than I currently am. Thirdly, and this is probably my biggest gripe with the game right now, is just the objectives on each map. They just seem to be reskinned from Outlast Trials. And I'll just read the damn script. I don't know. I'm already nervous about saying this. Outlast Trials is almost the same exact game design, except a larger development team and different enemies are chasing you. Some of the tasks in Deathground seem to just be pulled directly from Outlast Trials, and that sort of bothered me, really bothered me. That being said, it could just be that they were not unique ideas to begin with and are easy objectives to implement in any game design. But I would love to see something other than retrieve objective, turn wheel, and start generator. Like, genuinely, those are 3 missions directly from Outlast Trials. It was kind of crazy. All right, it is my last little snippet from the future. But to add some context here, the tasks you have sometimes seem mundane, but the end goals are pretty cool, and I will give it that. I don't think they just facelifted these missions from the Outlast Trials, but I guess I wish I understood more about the reason we're doing these missions and why we needed these items or why we needed to accomplish these tasks. Also, the phone is constantly ringing in the first map, which is very odd for an abandoned facility. Scam callers are just so crazy nowadays. Lastly, the sound design needs some TLC, like serious TLC. You can be on the first floor and hear dinos on the second floor like they are in your ear and on top of you. I know this because I will motion scan everywhere and the only dinos around me are on the second or third floor, but it sounds like I'm about to get jumped. This could be intentional as to mess with the players, but it makes it difficult for players to actually rely on the sound design of the game and is a little bit immersion breaking when there's a dino 100 feet above you that you can hear him breathing in your ear. Like, it's a little weird. But this isn't meant to, all in all, this isn't meant to knock Jaw Drop Studios or the game itself, because I obviously really enjoyed it and would love to see it grow and turn into something special. To be fair, I already think it is something special, but I would love to see what they had in mind for a more complete version of this game. I don't think they just pulled it from Outlast Trials. I don't know why I'm so stuck on that. I guess I could have taken it out, but I do want to know the similarities between the two games because that's all I could think about when I was playing it for the first time. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is like the exact same mission. Like, this is grind the bad apples. You know, people who have played Outlast Trials, you'll know what that is. But I will hop off and let the video finish. But yeah, just wanted to add that little addendum in there, or whatever you want to call it. But again, maybe these are just simple game designs that are easy to implement and build around. So this could just be me being nitpicky. But to sum up my feedback, Deathground is a horror game about dinosaurs. It is going to attract dinosaur fans and horror fans alike. It needs to either be really good at horror or really good at dinosaurs. And right now, I don't feel like they nailed either. I say all of this in the same breath as also saying I really enjoyed it and I think it has a ton of potential. The idea is unique, the devs seem passionate, and it looks like the ideas that will hopefully be implemented later are solid. They reached their initial Kickstarter goal of £80,000 and even exceeded it to £118,000. Some of the items on their stretch goals list after their base goal are the Allosaur, which we reached at £100,000, a dinosaur costume skin pack for £105,000, and a Compsognathus, which is our compy. What's interesting is the final goal at 160k was a 4th player slot in a character class. Unless I'm looking at something wrong, that was a final goal that was not reached, but we already have that at the base game release. Additionally, the base game goal of 80k included a T-Rex, but I did not see a T-Rex in the initial launch. The Compy was, though, and the Allo kind of was. It looks like when the publisher support was pulled, that they reorganized some of their goals and focused on different items to achieve sooner in their timeline. Seems like it was the right choice, but only time will tell. They also discussed adding specialized character classes, randomized objective points, craftable items mid-match, and different dinosaurs, and it all promises a really exciting and replayable experience. They even mentioned ranked and PvP. That is under their long-term vision piece, so it's likely that we will not see this for a minute, but I feel like that would be so cool. A PvP match fighting over tasks to complete while also avoiding the raptors or other dinos would be super cool. I think it would also be insanely difficult to balance, but the PvP and ranked bit at least indicates that they are thinking about how to keep an audience around for a longer period of time. I just hope that they focus on nailing the core game mechanics and building it into something closer to what was promised before trying to add things to keep people involved long term. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Do you agree with me? Think I'm stupid? Hate the game? Hate me? Love the game? Love me? Feel passionately in either way? Please let me know. This is my second channel. My first channel is KX Cobraful, where I do primarily survival crafting, but I am super passionate about horror games and things like it, so this is my channel where I get to just vent and talk and be a bit of a nerd. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton with the algorithm and goes a long way for a smaller channel such as myself. I also stream most of the games we talk about over on Twitch, so if you want to keep up with the chaos, check me out there. I also multi-stream here though, so if YouTube is your preferred platform, you can always just stay here. And before we wrap up, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the Patreon. For $5 a month, you can support me a little extra and help make videos like this possible. You can also make me take a shot at any point of the month, so I think that's honestly what people really subscribe for, but thank you again, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!